Welcome to My Modern Myth. I'm Eric, and I'm here with another rolling reflection. I rolled last night. I went to class on Monday, which is a very wrestling-heavy class traditionally, and love those days. They are very challenging because when you're on your feet, they push you a lot. It's just weird to think about the amount of energy you expend when you're on your feet versus on the ground. So the reflection today is centered around knowing your limits. Maybe you found them, how to push a little bit past them, and how to accept them. And before I talk about that, I want to mention the jester in the room, which is your ability to laugh at yourself. We do these warm-up drills with Coach Ben, and they're gymnastics in nature, and they're sprinting, and I really enjoy them. But the last one we did, we had to shimmy on our backs across the mat. And the entire time, I don't think many of us knew how to do it. We tried our best, but it was not pretty. And I'm sure with more practice, I could figure it out. But you just get to these points sometimes where you've just got to try your best and smile through it. And it was hard. I mean, it was definitely testing your core, so you felt like you were doing something, but you just felt like you weren't making progress. And I think a lot of times in life we can put all this work into it, and it's clunky and it's weird and it's stretching us, but we feel super uncomfortable, and the discomfort is really rooted in we're not making any progress. And so you're trying as hard as you can, you're feeling the burn, but you only made it 3 feet, and you should have made it 10 feet, And so we have these perceptions of my lack of skill or ability is preventing me from all of this pain, creating much more rapid growth and expansion or progress. And so it is like that with the rest of the class being, you're not going to know everything. Whenever you go into a learning environment, you shouldn't know everything. Otherwise, you're not really in the right place. And even if you do know it, there were some blue belts. There was like 4 blue belts there. One's a couple 3-stripe blue belts. So 4-stripe, they're getting close to purple belt. And they're still in this class because they're learning something, they're refining, they're testing, and that's a benefit because Jiu-Jitsu offers you so much mastery potential, but also even when you've mastered certain things, there's nuance to the game. There's certain things you can still sharpen. And I appreciate that because it's going to be an entertaining thing as long as you can stay healthy for a long time. And maybe some venues you burn out of. Maybe you lose interest, but jiu-jitsu has not been one of those for me. And I think we all have areas where we have limitless interest and limitless expansive potential for growth. And we find those arenas, we stay in those arenas. And so in those arenas, we find our limits. We do this carefully. We do this not on day one, hopefully, not on week one, hopefully. And even if we do find it, we need to listen to it. And hopefully we do, because a lot of people leave because they found the limit, pushed past it, didn't realize they were doing it, and they think that's the normal. And sometimes that's related because you're just matching energy with people who don't know what they're doing, and it escalates more than it should. In a safe way, I'm not saying it's dangerous with the people that I've rolled with, but you can definitely feel when you're in control, when you know what you're doing, you don't expend as much energy. And when you're a white belt and you don't know what you're doing, and even if you do, it's not going to work because you haven't developed a skill. And when it does work, it feels phenomenal. These are affirmations where, hey, your hard work's paying off, even though it's a moment here and a moment there. But the biggest moments that I've been finding that really challenge me are the moments when I'm up against that wall and I'm tired or I'm dizzy. I need to breathe. I need to focus on my breathing. Everyone else's breath has seemingly restored, but my heart rate is up. My breathing is up. And I'm like, I can't slow it down. And I appreciate the breaks because it gives me time to recoup, so that when we go drill again, I'm back to baseline, and hopefully I can keep that breath. Is that physiologic? Is that cardio? I don't know, but it is a limiter for me, and I can roll with it. I can do things with that breath, but it's more of that's a psychological barrier because I'm embarrassed because I'm breathing so heavy and everybody else is calm, but I can still do work. It's just I'm breathing heavy. So that's not my true limitation. So I can push past that. I'm grateful to focus on the breath. I'm grateful for the time I can take breaks because I know that is leading me down a path where I will injure myself. And I say micro because when you burn through all of these anaerobic fuel sources, your glucose, all of a sudden you're going to have your muscles fatiguing, and that puts more stress on your tendons, and all of a sudden tendinitis is flaring up. And that's the kind of lingering stuff that prevents me from doing push-ups, pull-ups, different kinds of exercises off the mat. And I know that limits my progress, but I'm trying to solve that in class because that's my priority. And then it's being able to bring in more exercise at home. So the breath isn't the limiter. So for me, I had to learn that. I had to learn the breath was not my limiting factor in the way that maybe it feels like it would be, where I just can't slow down. My heart rate is elevated. It's not decreasing. I can still do work. Tendonitis pain, I'm avoiding that because as soon as I feel a little something in my arm, I know I'm at that edge and I have to change my grips and I have to not rely on them. And that's going to cost me some position. Everything has a cost. And I have to be okay with that cost. And I can still learn even though I'm getting beat because I can't grip or whatever. So I'm focusing more on framing or posting. So that limiter says you just have to adjust, not stop. And so there's limiters that are going to tell us, look at this. Can we move forward? Do we need to step off? Do we have to circumvent it through another technique, another focus? Or do we just have to be okay with, getting past, getting beat, but we're still on the mats. We're still training. We're still doing something. Because limitations become restrictions when we say there's nothing we can do about it, and so we just walk away. There are restrictions. There are barriers that I shall not go through. And these arenas where we test ourselves, we start to learn what is and isn't dangerous for us. And I say danger because in a physical pursuit like this, with histories of injury, with history of lung conditions like asthma, there are real limiting factors that aren't just limitations, they are restrictions. They will restrict you from good health. And that is more or less my indicator. Because I found through pressure, you might get scared, through pain, you realize what is going to progress into tap pain versus, that's just uncomfortable because of whatever. It's not going to damage me, but it's just not going to feel good. And you don't know that unless you put yourself in controlled environments to find out. It's only when we put ourselves there that we can say yes or no to what this pain equates to. I've had my ankle roll, and I know that pain is leading to sacrifice of form. And if I shoot off of this leg or this knee hurts, I could damage it further. But if I do this, it's not going to damage it. So I can still come to class. But there are times where, I feel it in my shoulder and I got to be really careful. So these are all indicators of caution, not indicators of quit. My realization is two things. If I have an ocular migraine, that means I have to stop because I can't see very well. I have the pinpoint vision. I can't really see. There's a halo. And that I have to sit out because I don't feel safe if I can't see the person. It lasts 10, 15 minutes, but then I'm fine. Nothing else is happening. There's no dizziness. There's no illness. There's nothing. It's just something I have. Ever since I've had a TBI, I've had this occasional thing. And usually it happens after really intense work. So the other limiter, the one that is more intense to me, that is something I don't get often, but I do get, especially on a wrestling day. When my breath becomes a wheeze, like a whistle, that means my lungs are constricting. That means I can't get the breath. It's not panic. My head is balanced. I'm fine. I just can't breathe because of my asthma history. Wrestling is the only thing that really makes me feel that old asthma as a kid. Running doesn't, I get tired, my muscles fatigue before my lungs get to that level of irritation. And I don't know what it is about wrestling. It's anaerobic, it's a completely different endurance thing. It's a full body workout for sure. But my breath, for whatever reason, gets constricted, and that's when I tap out. And it happened the last roll of class. And we're doing this drill where there's multiple people going at the same time and you rotate in as someone scores a point. So my last round, we get done. I sit back on the wall, and then the clock ran out before I was to go again. So I was just focused on trying to get my breath back. But I knew I wasn't going to roll again because I met my limitation. And that was not a safe one for me to push past. I didn't have to push past it, but I knew I wouldn't given the chance. And we have to set those boundaries for ourselves, but we have to make sure we're setting them at the correct distance. Because there is pain and discomfort of growth, and there's pain and discomfort that is warning. Like in baseball, they have that warning track. You might think you're close to the wall, but until you hit that dirt, you're not as close as you think you are. But as soon as you hit that dirt, you got to put your arm up. You got to be ready for the impact, or you can knock yourself out. And that's one of the reasons that we reflect, though, is because where do you get this besides class or some kind of experience that's challenging you? You get it in the moment and you think about it, you make a choice, but we have time on the other side of that we have to use too. This is the moment where I get home or I'm driving for 30 minutes and I'm thinking about it. What happened today? What was good? What was challenging? What didn't go well? What should I have pushed through? What shouldn't I have pushed through? What should I have listened to? And what am I going to do next time this situation presents itself? I shouldn't have quit. Okay, now I can look at that as I drive home. And I say, okay, what did I feel that made me quit? But now I feel completely fine. And man, I feel kind of like bad. I didn't go harder or I didn't keep trying. Okay, next time when you feel that same feeling, go a little bit further. Don't let it stop you. Not saying that you're going to have found an invisible wall that wasn't telling you to stop. You might find out it was telling you to stop, but you only go a little bit further so you don't risk that injury. That's what we have to do. We have to use these reflection moments not to beat ourselves up and just focus on every detail that we got wrong and how embarrassed we were or how I don't deserve this and I shouldn't even be here because I'm wasting everyone's time, or whatever narrative we want to spin. We can choose to find the empowering path or disempower ourselves into quitting. Certainly have done that plenty in my life. These reflections are your time to really have honest conversation and make good decisions. And the good decision allows you to walk towards growth. And sometimes growth is stepping away and focusing on something else. Yes. But without enough trial and error, we won't be able to make that decision because we don't truly know. We haven't taken those limitations and analyzed them to decide if those things are telling us to walk away or make an adjustment in the same arena and keep going forward. So I hope you're taking these moments to reflect on your classes, on your situations in life to make the best decision possible. Because without that reflection, we're just making emotional reactions to things. And an emotion is not your indicator to do. It is your indicator to understand. Because emotions never lie, but they don't always tell you the truth. They are not lying to you. This is how you feel. This trigger is real to you. But the story that comes with that reaction isn't always the truth. And you have to ask yourself, is it the truth? Is it appropriate for me to get angry at this situation when my expectation was really unrealistic? And it's so much more deep. There's so much nuance, but you have to understand that the emotional reaction to something is a defense mechanism, and we have to understand what we're defending ourselves from. So until next time, keep reflecting and journeying well, my friends.